A shadowy figure slips through the roaring crowds of the 1936 Berlin Olympics, a glint of steel in their hand, and a deadly secret in their heart. Only one man can stop the chaos: Hercule Poirot, with his sharp mind and sharper moustache, ready for a mystery that could change history. Chapter 1. The arrival in Berlin. The year is 1936, and Berlin is alive with the electric buzz of the Olympic Games. The city is a whirlwind of flags, cheering crowds, and the clatter of trams under a summer sky. Hercule Poirot, the world-famous Belgian detective, steps off a train at Berlin's bustling Hauptbahnhof, his polished shoes clicking on the platform. He adjusts his immaculate suit, twirls his mustache, and surveys the scene with those piercing, grey-green eyes. He's not here for the games, though. A cryptic telegram from an old friend, Inspector Klaus Weber of the Berlin police, has summoned him. Danger at the Olympics. Need your mind. Come at once. Poirot, ever curious, couldn't resist. The air feels thick with more than just excitement. There's a tension, a whisper of something dark beneath the festive surface. Poirot's journey to his hotel takes him through streets draped in Olympic banners, but also swastika flags, a stark reminder of the political storm brewing in Germany. He notices the rigid salutes, the watchful eyes of uniformed officers, and the nervous glances of passers-by. At the Hotel Adlon, he meets Inspector Weber, a stout man with a tired face, and a handshake like iron. Weber wastes no time. "There's been a murder, Poirot," he says, voice low. "A British diplomat found dead in his room last night, stabbed. No witnesses, no weapon, and a note pinned to his chest. The games will fall." Poirot's eyes narrow. A murder at the Olympics. This is no ordinary crime, it's a statement, a threat to the world stage. As Weber leads Poirot to the crime scene, they weave through crowds of athletes and spectators. Poirot observes everything: a nervous vendor clutching his cart, a woman in a red hat glancing over her shoulder, a young man in a black coat slipping into an alley. His mind, like a finely tuned machine, catalogues every detail. At the diplomat's hotel room, the scene is grim. The man, Sir Henry Caldwell, lies sprawled on the floor, a single stab wound in his chest. The room is tidy, no signs of a struggle, no fingerprints. The note, written in precise black ink, taunts them. Poirot kneels, examining the body, the note, the room's every corner. "This assassin," he murmurs, "is meticulous, but even the most careful leave traces." Weber explains the stakes. The Olympics are a global symbol of peace, but tensions are high. The murder could spark diplomatic chaos, especially with whispers of political motives. Poirot agrees to help, but he warns Weber. Chapter 2. Shadows of Suspicion. Poirot begins his investigation by delving into Sir Henry Caldwell's life, starting with a visit to the British Embassy where the diplomat worked. The embassy is a grand building with marble floors and echoing halls, guarded by stern-faced soldiers outside. Inside, Poirot meets Ambassador Reginald Thorpe, a tall man with a stiff upper lip and a voice like gravel. Thorpe is shaken but composed, explaining that Sir Henry was a key figure in negotiations between Britain and Germany, handling sensitive trade agreements amid rising tensions. He had no known enemies, but his role made him a target for spies or radicals. Poirot probes deeper, asking about Sir Henry's recent activities. Thorpe reveals that the diplomat attended a private dinner the night before his death, hosted by a German industrialist named Heinrich Voss, attended by athletes, officials, and a few mysterious guests. Poirot's next stop is Voss's mansion on the outskirts of Berlin, a sprawling estate with manicured gardens and towering oaks. Voss, a burly man with a scar on his cheek and a booming laugh, greets Poirot with forced hospitality. He claims the dinner was innocent, celebration of the games with toasts to unity and sport. But Poirot notices Voss's fidgeting hands and evasive eyes when asked about arguments or unusual behavior. Voss admits Sir Henry seemed agitated, arguing quietly with a French journalist named Marie Duval over something about hidden agendas. Poirot jots this down, his little grey cells. Buzzing, Duval could be a lead. Voss also mentions an American athlete, Jack Harlan, who left early after a heated exchange with Sir Henry about doping rumours in the track events. Tracking down Marie Duval proves tricky. She's staying at a modest pension near the Olympic Village. Poirot finds her in a smoky cafe, typing furiously on a typewriter, her dark hair tied back and cigarette dangling from her lips. Duval is sharp-tongued and wary, denying any real conflict with Sir Henry. It was just talk about politics, she says, but Poirot presses, noting her trembling fingers. She confesses Sir Henry accused her of leaking stories to sabotage the games. Stories about Nazi propaganda infiltrating the events. Chapter 3. The flame ignites. The morning of the opening ceremony dawns bright and clear over Berlin, with the sun casting golden rays on the massive Olympic Stadium, a colossal structure designed to hold over 100,000 spectators. The air hums with anticipation as throngs of people from all nations converge on the venue. Their voices a babel of languages blending into a symphony of excitement. Flags flutter in the breeze, Union Jacks, tricolors, stars and stripes mingled with the red and black swastikas that dominate the skyline. Poirot, dressed in his finest suit with a fresh flower in his lapel, makes his way through the crowds, his keen eyes scanning every face, every gesture. Inspector Weber walks beside him, his uniform crisp, but his face etched with worry. They've increased security, but with so many people, it's like searching for a needle in a haystack. Poirot recalls the warning note, "Beware the flame," and wonders if it refers to the Olympic torch, set to be lit today in a grand spectacle as they enter the stadium through a VIP gate. Poirot is struck by the sheer scale, tiered seats rising, like ancient amphitheatres, a vast field below where athletes will parade, and at the centre, the unlit brazier waiting for the torch relay's climax. Weber briefs him on the schedule, the Parade of Nations, speeches from officials including Adolf Hitler himself, and then the lighting of the flame by the final runner. Poirot nods, his mind worry. The assassin could strike anywhere during the parade, in the stands, or at the moment of ignition. He suggests they split up, Weber to monitor the official's box, Poirot to mingle among the athletes and guests. Before parting, Weber hands Poirot a small dossier on new suspects, including the woman in the green dress from the stadium yesterday, identified as Elsa Brandt, a nurse attached to the German team, and rumoured to have connections to underground resistance groups. Poirot first heads to the athletes' assembly area, a tented enclosure buzzing with nervous energy. Runners stretch, gymnasts practice flips, swimmers adjust their caps. He spots Jack Harlan chatting with Fritz Lange, the two rivals exchanging forced smiles. Approaching casually, Poirot introduces himself as a fan of the games, his Belgian accent adding charm. Harlan. Chapter 4. Tracks of Deception. The track and field events kick off under a sky dotted with fluffy clouds. The Olympic Stadium once again packed with eager fans waving flags and cheering for their favorites. The scent of fresh-cut grass mixes with the tinge of sweat as athletes warm up on the red clay track, their spikes digging into the surface with rhythmic crunches. Poirot arrives early, his hat pulled low against the sun, meeting Marie Devol at the entrance to the press box. She's dressed in a practical blouse and skirt, her notebook clutched like a shield, eyes scanning the crowds nervously. They exchange a quick nod, and she leads him to a secluded spot near the long jump pit, where her anonymous tipster promised to meet. He said he'd be wearing a blue scarf, Duval whispers, her voice barely audible over the announcer's booming introduction. Of the 100-meter heats, Poirot adjusts his monocle, observing the sea of faces, families picnicking on the grass, officials in suits, athletes jogging in place. He spots Inspector Weber patrolling the perimeter, his men stationed at key points after yesterday's shooting. As the first race begins, sprinters exploding from the blocks like coiled springs, the crowd's roar swells. Duval points out a man in a trench coat and blue scarf lingering by the fence, his face obscured by a newspaper. They approach cautiously, Poirot's hand on his walking stick, ready for anything. The man lowers the paper, revealing a gaunt face. With deep-set eyes and a thin mustache, it's not anyone Poirot recognizes. But the stranger introduces himself as Otto Klein, a former employee of Heinrich Voss's pharmaceutical company. Klein's voice is hushed, laced with fear. He claims he was fired after discovering Voss's secret lab producing performance-enhancing drugs, not just vitamins, but potent steroids derived from experimental chemicals. These drugs were being distributed to select German athletes, including Fritz Langer, to ensure dominance and propagate Nazi superiority. Klein hands over a small envelope containing lab reports and a list of recipients, his hands shaking. Sir Henry found out, Klein says. He was going to expose it to the International Olympic Committee. That's why he was killed. Poirot tucks the envelope into his pocket, his mind racing. This confirms the doping link, but who pulled the trigger or wielded the knife? Klein mentions seeing Elsa Brandt delivering packages from the lab to the Olympic Village, disguised as medical supplies. And Ivan Petrov, Klein suspects the Russian was trying to steal the formula for his own country, leading to a confrontation. Before Poirot can ask more, a gunshot echoes not from the starting pistol, but a real one. Chaos erupts again. Spectators duck, athletes halt mid-stride. The shot came from the stands, aimed at the high jump area where Jack Harlan is competing. Harlan dives behind a mat, unharmed, but a judge nearby clutches his arm, blood seeping through his fingers. Weber's men rush in, but the shooter melts into the fleeing crowd. Poirot and Duval hurry to the scene, Klein vanishing in the pandemonium. The injured judge, an elderly Swiss official named Émile Laurent, gasps that he saw a glint of metal from a man in a black jacket before the shot. Poirot examines the wound, superficial but intentional. Laurent whispers he was investigating doping claims too, having received anonymous tips similar to Sir Henry's. As medics arrive, including Elsa Brandt, who quickly bandages Laurent, Poirot notices her pale face and hurried movements. He confronts her gently, away from prying ears. Brandt admits delivering packages, but swears they were innocent antibiotics. Under pressure, she breaks. Voss forced me. He threatened my family. But I didn't kill anyone. She reveals overhearing Voss arguing with a mysterious partner about eliminating obstacles, and mentions a hidden meeting tonight at the Berlin Zoo near the elephant enclosure. With this lead, Poirot regroups with Weber at a nearby cafe, Chapter 5. Currents of Conspiracy. The swimming events commence at the Olympic Swimming Stadium, a modern marvel with tiered seats surrounding a vast blue pool shimmering under artificial lights. The water's chlorine scent sharp in the air. Divers slice through the surface like arrows, while swimmers churn laps in preliminary heats, their strokes powerful and precise. Poirot enters through a side door, accompanied by Inspector Weber, who has doubled guards around the venue after the maps. Discovery. The map indicated weak points, the diving platform, locker rooms, and chemical storage for pool maintenance, perhaps a poisoning plot. Poirot's eyes dart to the crowds, dignitaries in box seats, fans in colourful attire, athletes toweling off poolside. He spots Marie Duval in the press area, typing away, her earlier scare at the zoo not deterring her pursuit of the story. Their first task is interrogating Heinrich Voss, summoned to a private office overlooking the pool. Voss, sweating despite the cool air, denies the zoo meeting, claiming he was home. But when confronted with the briefcase recovered and dusted for prints, he crumbles slightly. It's business, he blusters. Petrov wanted partnerships. Poirot presses on the drugs, showing lab reports. Voss admits producing enhancers, but insists they're legal aids, not steroids. The map. A security assessment. He lies. Under threat of arrest, Voss reveals the Fedora man is Karl Becker, a hired thug with a military background, tasked with protecting interests. Becker killed Sir Henry on orders, but whose? Voss points to a higher power, an Olympic official, corrupted by Nazi ideals, seeking to rig the games for propaganda. He names Ambassador Thorpe as suspicious, having invested in Voss's company secretly. Shocked, Poirot and Weber rush to confront Thorpe at the British delegation suite in the stadium. Thorpe, sipping tea calmly, laughs off the accusation. Investments. Preposterous. But his ledger, seized by Weber, shows transactions. Thorpe confesses financial ties, but swears innocence in murder. He reveals Sir Henry was his rival, uncovering Thorpe's embezzlement from diplomatic funds to fund the drugs for British athletes, to Harlan included. Harlan doped. This twists everything. Thorpe mentions overhearing Elsa Brandt plotting with resistance fighters to expose the scandal, using the assassinations as diversions. Poolside. The men's 100-meter freestyle final begins. The crowd hushed as swimmers mount the blocks. Harlan is in lane 4, Langer in 5, rivals glaring. The gun fires, bodies diving in unison. Midway, Harlan falters, clutching his side, sinking. Lifeguards pull him out, convulsing poison. Medics rush, Brandt among them, administering antidote. Harlan survives, barely, whispering the water, tainted. Tests confirm. Trace chemicals in his lane only, a slow-acting toxin. The map's prediction came true. Poirot examines the pool maintenance room, finding tampered pipes leading to specific lanes. Fingerprints, Becker's. Hunting Becker becomes priority. Klein, the tipster, reappears via a note to Duval, meeting them at a nearby boathouse on the spree. Klein, more paranoid, reveals Becker's hideout, an abandoned warehouse in He adds that Petrov isn't stealing, he's sabotaging, working with Brandt's resistance to dismantle the Nazi showcase. Petrov confirmed this in a coded message Klein intercepted. At the warehouse, a raid unfolds. Weber's team storms in, gunshots echoing off rusted beams. Becker is cornered, disarmed, his fedora knocked off, revealing a scarred face. Under interrogation, he spills. Hired by Voss initially, but the true boss is Fritz Langer, the athlete himself. Langer, the golden boy. Langer, pulled from post-race interviews, faces Poirot in a stark room. He breaks down, doped to win, but blackmailed by Sir Henry, who discovered it. In rage, Langer ordered the hit, using Becker, the notes, to create chaos, diverting from doping to political intrigue. Chapter 6. Vaults of Vengeance with Klein in custody. The Olympic atmosphere shifts subtly, the weight of overt danger lifting like a fog, though whispers of the scandals still ripple through the crowds. The gymnastics events unfold in the door, a cavernous arena filled with the creak of apparatus and the gasps of spectators as athletes twist and flip through the air, defying gravity with grace and power. Chalk dust hangs in the air like fine snow, and the mats thud softly under landings. Poirot, ever vigilant, attends not just as an observer, but to tie up lingering threads. Klein's confession left gaps, motives intertwined like the ring's gymnasts. Swing upon. Inspector Weber joins him in a box seat, his relief palpable, but Poirot's mustache twitches with unease. Mon ami, Poirot says, the puzzle is almost complete, but one piece eludes the why of it all. Klein's revenge seems too personal for such grand chaos. The competitions begin with the men's floor exercise. Tumblers bounding across the mat in sequences of flips and twists, their bodies a blur of motion. Poirot watches intently, noting the international mix, Japanese precision, Soviet strength, American flair. He spots a familiar face among the coach's Ambassador Thorpe's aide, a young man named Edward Finch, hovering near the British team with unusual intensity. Finch, previously mentioned in passing during Thorpe's interrogation, now piques Poirot's interest. Discreet inquiries reveal Finch as Sir Henry's former secretary, privy to the diplomat's secrets. Could he be a loose end? Poirot approaches during a break, the hall echoing with applause for a perfect routine. Finch, wiry with slicked-back hair, startles at Poirot's greeting. Just supporting the lads, he claims, but his eyes flicker too. The vault apparatus, where a German gymnast prepares. As the vault event starts, athletes sprint down the runway, handspringing over the horse with explosive force. The crowd ooze at each leap. Suddenly, during a routine by a Finnish competitor, the vault shifts slightly, causing a wobbly landing and a sprained ankle. Officials inspect, the apparatus tampered with, bolts loosened just enough for instability. Weber seals the area, and Poirot examines the sabotage, subtle, professional fingerprints. None but a thread of blue wool clings to a bolt, matching Finch's scarf. Confronted in a side room, amid the clang of parallel bars, Finch sweats. "I didn't kill anyone," he blurts. He admits resenting Sir Henry for blocking his promotion, and Klein recruited him to sow discord, promising riches from the doping scandals. Fallout. Finch loosened the vault to injure rivals, escalating the chaos Klein craved. But Finch drops a bombshell. Klein had an accomplice outside the game's sister, Lydia Klein, posing as a spectator who handled communications. Lydia, bitter like her brother over the inheritance, might be planning a final act. Poirot recalls a woman in a blue hat seen near multiple incidents, matching descriptions from Duval and Brandt. Weber issues an alert, but the hall is vast, thousands, milling about. The women's uneven bars commence, bars clinking as gymnasts swing hand over hand, releasing and recatching with pinpoint accuracy. Poirot scans the stands, spotting the blue hat near the judges' table. He signals Weber, and they, converge quietly, the crowd's cheers masking their approach. Lydia Klein, elegant with sharp features resembling Otto's, senses them and bolts, weaving through aisles at chasing Sue's Poirot's. Surprisingly agile, Lydia dashes toward the exit, but trips over a discarded program. Weber, cuffing her. In interrogation at a makeshift office, Lydia spits venom. Henry ruined us, squandering the family fortune on diplomacy while we starved. She confesses relaying messages, smuggling tools for sabotage, even providing the rifle for the torch shooting. But she insists the plot ends here. No more plans, Poirot doubts. Her eyes hold a glint of unfinished business. Searching her purse, reveals a ticket to the boxing finals tomorrow and a vial of clear liquid poison. Analysis confirms a fast-acting toxin, perhaps for the water coolers or medals. With Lydia secured, Poirot turns to mending fences. He meets with Elsa Brandt in the medical tent, where she's treating minor injuries from falls. Brandt, relieved, shares her resistance network's intel. They infiltrated Voss's lab, destroying remaining drug stocks last night. No more enhancements tainting the scores. Jack Harlan, recovering from his poisoning, approaches Poirot sheepishly. In the hallway, admitting his brief doping attempt out of pressure to win gold for America. I stopped when I saw the danger, he says. Poirot nods sagely, advising redemption through honest competition. Harlan vows to compete clean in remaining events. The day progresses with pommel horse and rings, muscles straining against gravity. The audience enthralled. Poirot interviews Marie Duval in the press lounge, typewriters clacking around them. Duval, her story ready for print. Credits Poirot. Chapter 7. Punches in the Ring, the boxing venue. The Waldburn Amphitheatre, carved into a forested hillside, buzzes with primal energy as fighters shadowbox in warm-up areas, gloves thumping pads like distant thunder. The open-air stage, surrounded by tiered stone seats, hosts crowds under a canopy of trees, the summer heat tempered by evening breezes. Poirot arrives with heightened senses, the anonymous telegram's warning etched in his mind. Inspector Weber has fortified security, extra patrols, metal detectors at gates, sniffer dogs roaming. Yet Poirot knows cunning evades brute force. The bouts begin with lighter weights, jabs and hooks flying in the ring. Referees barking commands amid cheers and boos. Poirot focuses on potential targets, heavyweight favorites, officials, or the crowd itself. He recalls Lydia's Ticatro 5 near the judges. Searching her effects yielded a coded map of the amphitheater, marked spots suggesting hidden explosives or sniper nests. Weber's team sweeps, finding a suspicious package under a seat, a timer device disarmed just in time. Fingerprints traced to a new suspect, Gregor Haas, a disgraced boxer band for fixing matches, linked to Klein through underground betting. Rings. Haas, burly with a broken nose, was spotted entering the venue disguised as a vendor. Poirot and Weber combed the concessions, the aroma of pretzels and beer mixing with sweat. They corner Haas behind a stall, his vendor apron hiding a bulge, a pistol. Haas resists, swinging a haymaker, but Weber dodges and tackles him. In custody, Haas growls, confessions, hired by Klein to rig bouts via threats, escalating to sabotage. When Sir Henry threatened exposure, the doping tied into betting. Enhanced athletes guaranteed wins for gamblers. Haas planted the device to create panic, profiting from cancelled events. but he mentions a partner inside the ring, a referee. Hans Müller, no relation to the torchbearer, bribed to sway decisions. Observing the middleweight semi-final, Poirot eyes Müller, a stern man with a whistle, calling fouls unevenly. A British boxer, Tommy Hayes, lands clean punches but gets warnings, while his German opponent skates free. Poirot signals Weber, who pulls Müller ringside during a break. Müller denies at first, but faced with Hoss's testimony, admits taking bribes. From Voss's syndicate, just points, not lives, he claims. Yet his pocket holds a syringe more poison, intended for the water bottles of underdogs. Müller fingers a bigger fish. Olympic Committee member Dr. Eric Stahl, overseeing anti-doping. Ironically, the scandal's architect Stahl, found in the VIP lounge sipping champagne, exudes arrogance, his monocle glinting. Poirot confronts him amid clinking glasses and laughter. Stahl scoffs, but evidence mounts. Bank records from Thorpe linking to Stahl's accounts, funding the drugs for German supremacy. Stahl orchestrated Klein's involvement, using the brothers' grudge as cover for eliminations. The games must showcase our might. Stahl sneers, unrepentant. Arrested, he reveals the final plan. A bomb in the medal podium for the heavyweight final, detonating during awards to symbolize downfall. With time ticking, Poirot races to the podium, area hidden behind the ring. Technicians prepare, but Poirot spots tampering a wire snaking under the platform. Bomb squad called. They defuse a device packed with shrapnel, note attached. Fall of the mighty. Crisis averted. The bouts continue, now fairer with a replacement ref. Hayes wins his match legitimately, advancing to cheers. Poirot ties threads with remaining suspects. He meets Petrov in a quiet grove near the amphitheater, fireflies dancing. Petrov admits Soviet interest in exposing the scandal to embarrass Nazis, but denies violence's role was intelligence only. Brandt's resistance aided by providing antidotes. Duval, covering the events, publishes a preliminary article, crediting Poirot anonymously. Harlan, watching from seats, approaches to thank Poirot for saving his career. Night deepens. The heavyweight final under floodlights. American Joe Louis analog versus a German powerhouse. Punches echoing like cannon fire. The crowd roars at each connect, tension electric. Poirot watches from sidelines, mind at peace as the bout ends in fair victory. No more threats materialize. The ring purged of shadows, reflecting on the punches thrown, not just fists, but blows. Of betrayal, ambition, vengeance. Poirot sees humanity's ring, where good spars with evil. Weber commends him over post-event coffee. Loose ends secured, scandals contained, games preserved. The chapter ends with Poirot strolling the forest path, stars above, the amphitheater's lights fading. Boxing revealed the final jabs, but endurance events loom. What marathon of mysteries remains? Chapter 8. Marathons of Mystery. The marathon event snakes through Berlin's streets, a grueling test of endurance that draws runners from across the globe, their feet pounding pavements lined with cheering Berliners, waving flags and offering water cups under a relentless sun. The route winds past iconic landmarks, the Brandenburg Gate, the Reichstag, along the Spree River, transforming the city into a living track where history and athleticism collide. Poirot, not one for physical exertion, observes from a shaded vantage point near the start line, his handkerchief dabbing at his brow. Inspector Weber by his side, with a map of the course marked for potential trouble spots. With the main conspirators, like Klein, Lydia, Stahl, and others behind bars. The air feels lighter, but Poirot's little grey cells hum with caution. Endurance, mon ami, he muses, is not just for the runners. The assassin's plot has legs yet. Weber nods, reporting increased patrols along the 42-kilometer path. But admitting the open nature makes security a nightmare. As the gun fires, sending the pack surging forward like a human wave, Poirot's eyes lock on key participants: the favored Japanese runner Kite-san, the American John Woodruff in longer distances but here supporting, and German hopefuls pushed by the regime. Early miles pass uneventfully, runners pacing themselves, crowds roaring encouragement. Poirot and Weber follow in a police car, weaving parallel streets, radio crackling with updates. At the 10-kilometer mark, near the Tiergarten, a runner stumbles, inexplicably, clutching his throat before collapsing. Medics swarm, diagnosing sudden dehydration, but Poirot insists on tests. Results trace poison in his water cup, handed by a volunteer. The volunteer vanished, but described as a tall man with a limp, matching a minor figure from Voss's factory logger, chemist named Rudolf Klein. No relation to Klein, but perhaps a hired hand. Poirot directs a manhunt, checkpoints tightening. The race continues, leaders pulling ahead, sweat-soaked jerseys clinging. At the halfway point, by the Charlottenburg Palace, another incident. A barricade collapses, nearly crushing spectators, but runners dodge. Investigation reveals cut supports, sabotage. Weber's team finds a tool left behind, engraved with initials. R.K. Rudolf Klein again. Poirot pieces it. Klein, overlooked in earlier sweeps, a disgruntled scientist fired by Voss for botched formulas, seeking revenge by targeting the marathon as a symbol of Nazi endurance propaganda. But is he alone? Poirot recalls a cryptic line from Stahl's confession about the long run, perhaps hinting at extended plans, interrogating arrested suspects remotely via phone. Poirot presses Lydia Klein. She smirks, revealing Klein as her distant cousin, radicalized against the regime, using the chaos to plant anti-Nazi leaflets along the route. But poison, not his style, she says. Check the water stations, foreign interference. Poirot pivots, questioning Petrov's aides. One cracks. Soviet agents tampered with supplies to discredit German organization, but denies collapses. Layers upon layers. Meanwhile, the race nears the 30-kilometer wall, runners hitting fatigue, some dropping out. Sun leads, his form efficient, but a German contender closes, suspiciously energetic. Doping remnants. Poirot flags him for post-race testing. A breakthrough. At the 35-kilometer aid station, Klein spotted dispensing water. Weber's men close in, but Klein flees into a side alley, Poirot directing pursuit from the car. The chase zigzags through cobblestone streets, Klein knocking over carts, civilians scattering. Cornered in a bakery, flour dusting the air, Klein surrenders, vial in pocket. It's not poison, he pants, just laxatives to humiliate the favorites. But the collapsed runner, mislabeled, meant for officials. The barricade, his doing, to expose poor construction as metaphor for regime flaws. Poirot probes deeper. Klein admits alliance with Brandt's resistance, distributing pamphlets hidden in cups, but swears no lethal intent. Evidence supports vials, non-toxic. Relieved but wary, Poirot returns to the route as leaders approach the stadium finish. Crowds thicken, bands playing triumphant marches. Sun crosses first, gold for Japan, a blow to Aryan myths. But as medalists ascend the podium, a shout erupts. A man in the stands, waving a banner, "Down with tyrants." Security tackles him, but he swallows a capsule, foaming at the mouth. Suicide. Autopsy later. Cyanide, self-administered. His identity: a Polish dissident, linked to none, a lone wolf, protesting occupation fears. Poirot sighs. Not all mysteries tie to the main plot. Post-trace. Poirot convenes with Weber, Duval, and Brandt in a quiet cafe, coffee steaming. Duval's articles expose the scandals, pressuring officials. Brandt reports resistance successes, labs destroyed, agents safe. Harlan, clean now, places bronze in another event, redeeming himself. Poirot unravels final threads. The telegram threat from CH7 traced to Klein's pranks. Marathon complete, mysteries endured. Yet, as sun sets, a new note slips under Poirot's door. The decathlon decides all. Tomorrow's multi-event, more trials. Poirot twirls his mustache. The long run leading to ultimate tests. Chapter 9. Decathlon of Deceit. The decathlon, king of events, spans 2 days in the Olympic Stadium. 10 grueling tests, from sprints to throws, jumps to endurance, crowning the world's greatest all-around athlete. The field gleams under flash. For evening portions, competitors warming up amid the crack of starting pistols and thud of poles. Poirot positions himself in the infield bleachers, binoculars trained, sensing the note's warning points to climax. Inspector Weber deploys undercover agents, the stadium a fortress after marathon scares. Deceit in 10 acts, Poirot quips, each event a potential stage for trickery. Contenders include American Glenn Morris, German stars, and others. Their versatility on display. Day 1 opens with the 100 meters. Explosive starts echoing. Maurice dashes ahead, but a German athlete, Werner Schultz, matches stride unnaturally. Poirot notes Schultz's name in old doping, logs cleared, but suspicious. Next, long jump, leaps into sand pits, measurements called, a foul line tampered. Chalk smeared, causing disputes. Officials recalibrate, but delay breeds tension. Poirot inspects deliberate scuff marks, boot print, matching a groundskeeper's interrogated. He confesses bribe from a shadowy figure, promising family safety. The figure, described as elderly with a cane, evoking Sir Henry's old rival, a retired diplomat named Lord Archibald Grey, mentioned in embassy files as envious of Caldwell's success. High jump follows, bars rising, athletes clearing with Fosbury-like archers, anachronistic but fitting spirit. Schultz clears high, but Maurice strains a muscle slightly sabotage. His mat deflated subtly. Poirot traces to the same groundskeeper, now spilling. Grey hired him to favour Germans, rigging for propaganda. Grey, located in the VIP section, denies vehemently when confronted. Absurd, but his cane hides a compartment with tools. Grey confesses grudge against Sir Henry for a past betrayal, stolen love affair, and extended to disrupting British hopes. But murder? No, just petty interference. Shot. Put. Heavy balls hurled. Grunts filling air. A ball swapped lighter for Schultz. Weights checked. Anomaly found. Culprit, a coach's assistant, linked to Stahl's remnants. Arrested, he reveals a splinter cell continuing the conspiracy, aiming to crown Schultz as decathlon king, symbolizing superiority. Poirot alerts, test Schultz doped, disqualified mid-event. Shame rippling through crowds. Day 1 closes with 400 meters, laps blurring. Morris leads points, but exhaustion shows. Evening, Poirot dines with team, unraveling greys, network minor, saboteurs. No lethality, but the note implies more. Overnight, stadium secured, day 2, 110-meter hurdles, barriers, clattered, a hurdle. Loosened, tripping a French athlete. Fixed, but Poirot finds wire cutters nearby, prints of a woman traced to Gray's secretary, Amelia Croft, infatuated accomplice. Captured fleeing, she admits, planting devices, but swears end of plot. Discus. Throw, spins and releases, plates soaring. Wind gauges tampered, readings off, affecting scores. Culprit, another store loyalist, caught, red-handed. Pole vault, height scaled, poles bending. A pole weakened for Morris, swapped in time. The saboteur, Croft's brother, family affair, javelin. Spears piercing turf, tips blunted for non-Germans. Inspected, yes. Final 1,500 meters, endurance test. Runners circle, Morris pushing through pain. As finish nears, a smoke bomb instants panic, but contained. Bomber, lone radical, unrelated. Morris wins gold, integrity intact. Poirot exposes deceits, decathlon each. Event, a lie unraveled. Conspiracies crushed, games pure. But closing ceremony looms final act. Poirot prepares, mysteries decathlons conquered, but curtain call awaits. Chapter 10. The closing ceremony of the 1936 Berlin Olympics unfolds in the Grand Olympic Stadium under a twilight sky painted in hues of orange and purple, the massive structure alive with the flicker of torches and the murmur of 100,000 spectators bidding farewell to the games. Flags from every nation flutter in the gentle breeze. A colorful tapestry against the stark architecture, while athletes parade one last time. Their faces a mix of exhaustion, triumph, and relief. Hercule Poirot stands at the edge of the infield, his immaculate suit a stark contrast to the athletic wear around him, his eyes scanning the scene with unyielding vigilance. Inspector Weber flanks him, his uniform slightly rumpled from days of relentless pursuit, whispering updates on the secured perimeters. With all major suspects, Klein, Lydia, Stahl, Gray, Klein, and their accomplices in irons, the ceremony should proceed smoothly. Yet Poirot feels a nagging itch, a final puzzle piece hovering just out of reach. The games end, mon ami, he says softly, but does the game. The proceedings begin with a fanfare of trumpets, officials mounting the podium for speeches, extolling unity and peace, their words echoing over loudspeakers amid polite applause. Hitler observes from his box, expression inscrutable, surrounded by aides. Poirot notes the positions, Duval in the press pit, camera flashing, Brandt tending to a last-minute injury among marchers, Harlan and Morris waving to fans, medals gleaming. Petrov in the diplomatic section, stoic. The parade circles the track, nations blending in a symbolic loop, cheers swelling. As the Olympic flag lowers slowly, a choir sings anthems, the flame in the brazier burning bright, ready for poignant end. Suddenly, a hush falls as the flame wavers unnaturally, sparks shooting upward. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Poirot's head snaps up sabotage. Weber signals guards, but Poirot halts him, observing. No explosion, just erratic flickering. A technician rushes in, adjusting valves, revealing a minor glitch-tampered fuel line, but harmless now. Poirot smiles faintly. A remnant prank from Klein's laxative crew, perhaps. But his gaze shifts to the podium, where the IOC president prepares to declare the games closed. A figure in a maintenance uniform slips behind the stage, toolbox in hand, suspicious uniform ill-fitting. Poirot moves swiftly, weaving through officials, Weber following. The man, upon spotting them, drops the box and runs, clambering up scaffolding, toward the flagpole. Pursuit ensues, Poirot directing Weber's men to flank. The chase climbs high, the crowd below oblivious, focused on the ceremony. Cornered at the top, the man turns it's Émile Laurent, the injured judge from the track events. Bandaged arm in a sling. "You," Poirot exclaims, wind whipping his words. Laurent sneers, revealing a detonator. The final fall exposed the corruption, or it all burns. He confesses, not just a judge, but Sir Henry's secret ally, undercover to dismantle the doping. Ring from within. When Klein killed Henry, Laurent continued solo, staging minor incidents to force revelations without mass harm. The detonator. For fireworks rigged to spell doping scandal in the sky. A non-lethal spectacle. Poirot reasons with him. The stadiums roar below, masking their words. Justice is served, monsieur. The guilty are jailed. Scandals aired. No need for this. Laurent hesitates, eyes on the flame. Weber edges closer. A gust of wind. Laurent slips. Poirot grabs his arm, pulling him to safety. Detonator secured. Laurent arrested. But Poirot advocates leniency. His motives pure, actions restrained. As they descend, the ceremony peaks. The flame extinguishes in a puff of smoke, symbolizing end. Applause thundering. In the aftermath, under stadium lights, loose ends tie. Duval's exposes hit presses worldwide, toppling corrupt officials, reforming doping rules. Brandt's resistance gains traction, subtle blows to the regime. Petrov returns home with intelligence coups. Harlan and Maurice celebrate clean victories, inspiring future athletes. Voss's empire crumbles in trials. Langer rehabilitates. Klein and Kin face justice, vengeance quenched. Gray and Croft fade into obscurity, deceit defeated. Poirot bids Weber farewell at the gates, the empty stadium. Silent. A most intriguing games, he reflects. Weber shakes his hand. Berlin owes you, Poirot. A train whistle calls back.